Okay, so as I mentioned in my last video, I wanted to go over what were the slowest areas and the busiest, the hottest areas last year in real estate in the city of Winnipeg. So when we're looking at statistics, it's really difficult to kind of delineate what was the busiest, what was the hottest areas. So for the purpose of this video, we're going to deal with the number of sales, so the busiest areas, and then of course the sale to list ratio, which to me is the premier statistic. It tells me are things selling in that area or are they lagging behind? So I'm looking forward to getting into this with you. So let's find out, is your area here?
Come on now, dog.
One eternity later.
Let's get started. So we're going to start first with the slowest areas. I always like to start with the negative. We'll end on a high note. So we're going to start here with the slowest areas in terms of volume. And last year, the slowest area in terms of volume at the number 3 spot was St. Norbert. St. Norbert is south of the city. It's just off Pembina Highway, south of the perimeter. And it's home to, I think, the best farmers market in the province that I know of. And it only had 45 sales last year. You know, there's a lot of townhouses, there's a lot of first-time buyer opportunities there, some older homes built 60s and 70s, some newer stuff, maybe 80s if you want to call that newer, but there just wasn't a lot of activity. There's no new home building augmenting that area, so it's relying predominantly on resale activity, and there wasn't a lot last year. It was number 3 spot at 45. And the number 2 spot was Harborview South. Harborview South is just south of Grassy off La Jamodier Boulevard on the east side. And it was an area that was built in the 1980s. And then of course it kind of stopped towards the late 80s, and then it picked up again with new developed land in the early 2000s. Not a lot of activity there. Again, very similar in St. Norbert's situation where there just was no new building attracting people towards that area, and the people that were there were situated. And there just wasn't a lot of activity, just 46 sales last year. And the number 1 spot for the slowest area was Tuxedo. Now, Tuxedo is the crown jewel of real estate areas in the city of Winnipeg. It is that because it's got the most percentage of homes that are north of $1 million. And given the state of the market and given the amount of buyers that can qualify to buy in areas of that size, it's of no surprise that at 34 sales, it came in at the number 1 slowest area last year. Now, in percentage to sale list, in the number 3 spot last year was Sage Creek. Now, Sage Creek was only 41% sale to list ratio. And I think the major reason for that, and I think there's 2 of them, but the major one is there's a lot of builders that are listing product in that area that doesn't exist. They're essentially using MLS as an advertising tool. And a lot of those homes, it's not uncommon, go unsold. And then they have to get relisted. So it somewhat skews that number. I think another reason is the cost of real estate in that area is generally well north of $500,000. And we know, and if you wanted to get into more statistics, look at my video from before where I kind of get into that. And basically the amount of buyers in that price range, the hottest ranges last year were 300,000 to 400,000. You weren't going to find that in Sage Creek, so the percentage of sale to list ratio was only 41%, number 3 spot. And the number 2 spot was Riverbend or Highland Point. Now, Riverbend, not a very large area, has some older product built in the 1980s, has some newer stuff built maybe in the early 2000s, but Highland Point is a brand new area. And very similar to the examples I gave you with Sage Creek, a lot of builders using MLS to market their product. A lot of them have expired. A lot of townhouses in there, a lot of trying to be affordable homes, and it only saw 40%. And the number 1 spot was the North End. And the North End was just under 40% sale to list ratio. And I think the reason for that obviously has a bit of a reputation for being a high crime area. But secondly, because of the affordability of the area, many investors look to get started, start building their real estate portfolio in areas like the North End. And because of interest rates, Investments were down at a low, and therefore areas like that definitely took a hit. Now, let's get into the top areas, the busiest areas last year in 2023. Coming in at the number 3 spot was East Transcona. And East Transcona was 176 units. And East Transcona, Canterbury Park, very diverse area. There's tons to choose from there, from the lower price range and townhouses to sort of in that hot range, the 300 to 400 range, and then stuff that's north of 500,000. Very close to getting out of the city for those people that love to get out to Lake Country, close to shopping, very vibrant community. 176 sales was very busy for somewhat of a down year in real estate. The number 2 spot was the River Park South area that would have been south of Berlin. So more of the newer version of River Park South, closer to the Perimeter Highway. Last year, 179 sales. It was hotter than a pistol area when it was brand new, and it continues to be a very desirable area for people to rebuy and turn over. Of no surprise, in the number 1 spot was Bridgewater and South Point, basically Waverly West. And it was number 1 north of 300 sales, which blew every other area out of the water. And predominantly that is because of the size of that area on MLS. There's so many opportunities to do business. A lot of people trying to get into something newer in the city of Winnipeg in the south end typically gravitate towards that area. And there's a wide, diverse style of home available in that area. Now, looking at percentage of sale to list. Now, these are the hottest areas in the city of Winnipeg, bar none. At the number 3 spot, going back to River Park South, but the Meadowwood side. It's kind of the older version of River Park South, south of St. Vital Mall, close to everything, tons of schools, tons of shopping, tons of transit, everything. I feel like 2 to 3 buyers I get will all consider the Meadowwood area. It's of no surprise of over 91%. It would probably be higher, but because the people who sell there know it's a hot area, sometimes you get the odd seller that overprices a property in there, but virtually everything that goes up there sells. In the number 2 spot, Tyndall Park.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
That's kind of a surprise. Tyndall Park is up in the northeast part of the city. It's not a very big area. A lot of migrants coming to Winnipeg, to our great city, lay roots down in these areas. And they all want to be close to each other, and those homes get snapped up real quickly. It's a very diverse area in terms of being close. There's lots of schools, lots of development going on close by, and it was a very desirable area. In 2023, nearly 95%. In the number 1 spot for 2023, numero uno, over 96%, can I get a drum roll? North Kildonan. North Kildonan was the number 1 spot. And how do I explain that? It's hard, but have you ever talked to somebody from North Kildonan? They love it there. They love it. There's hidden jewels like Buns Creek, the little walkway. Sorry to let the cat out of the bag. And you know what? There seems to be a bit of a, in terms of the maturity of that area, a lot of kids born in the 80s and 90s are getting into the real estate market, and they want to come back. They want to come back to where they were raised. They want to live in North Kildonan. So last year, and listen, it hasn't always been number 1, but last year it is the champion. It is number 1 hottest area. Are you curious about where your area comes in? Are you curious about how you think it might perform? Yeah, put a little comment below, I'll get to it. And if you found this video useful, you found it insightful, go ahead and click that subscribe button. We got some more insightful videos coming.